Hi guys, this is Andy the Expedition Hiker. Yes, today is the last day of the Pilgrims Way, my walk from Winchester to Canterbury. Now I apologise that I didn't bring out the video last week, but work got in the way. Anyway, hopefully you enjoy this video. It's the last of the series. Also, if you've enjoyed this series, if you haven't subscribed, please do, and click a like. That'd be great too, because there is certainly more videos coming out, more long distance walks, more shorter walks, and some other videos too. Today we've got quite a few places we're going past, including Godmersham Hall, Chilham Castle, before we reached Canterbury. And once I arrived at the city gates to Canterbury, I followed the pilgrims and how King Henry II walked through the streets of Canterbury. I had a bit of a quirky ending as I on the last few hundred metres, as you'll see in the video. And as we reached Canterbury Cathedral, we got something that was very fortunate for myself, what I received. So hopefully with that, you'll enjoy it yourselves. Please enjoy. This is the campsite I stayed at last night. Lovely campsite. It has got a little pitch here for tents, quite sheltered. Lovely view. What more can you ask? Morning. Well, this is the last day of the Pilgrims Trail. Still trying to work out the full distance. Several books seem to say different distances, but I think it's around 150 miles. I've covered in 8 days. We're heading off to Canterbury today. Stayed at a nice campsite last night, Dunn Street Farm campsite. I've got 10 miles to do today. It's very breezy, although fortunately the wind is coming from behind. Meant to be raining majority of the day. It's been spotting a little bit, but hopefully we might get our first glimpse of Canterbury in about 6 or 7 miles time. Anyway, as usual, plod on. We're heading up towards Home Farm, which is on our left, although maybe you can see it up there, but I can't see it at the moment because it's a bit higher than 6 feet in a minute. Home Farm is a rather large mansion, the oversized mansion of Home Farm. The remains of St Mary's. In World War II, this church was bombed, but it wasn't until 1951 that the roof collapsed, and now, as you can see, there's just remains of an old church. Also has connections to Canterbury Cathedral. You can see that St Mary's is made of a mixture of chalkstone and pots of flint. I believe it was an Anglo-Saxon church built around the 10th century. This grave here is of a poor worker of the Eastwell Estate, but why would he have such a large grave, and who would have paid for it at the churchyard when most workers would have had an unmarked grave? More about him later. I was just looking at these graves. The one on the left is George James, 10th Earl of Winchester. The 10th Earl is famous for challenging the Duke of Wellington, who at the time was the Prime Minister, to a duel. The Earl was known for speaking out of term over many issues while serving as a politician. He gave insulting remarks to the issue of Catholic emancipation, the granting of civic and political rights to Catholics. The duel took place at Battersea Fields on the 21st of March 1829. Both men deliberately aimed wide, and the Earl apologised to the Prime Minister. This is Eastwell Manor, a building of character and historical value. Its history began with Saxon times as the Lord of the Manor, Frederick, from way back when King Edward the Confessor, one of the last Anglo-Saxon kings, ruled these lands. The house was originally built in 1540 for Sir Thomas More, a commissioner to Henry VIII in the dissolution of monasteries between 1536 and 1541. A worker that lived on the estate, Richard Plantagenet, where we saw his grave back at the remains of St Mary's Church earlier, was believed to be the third illegitimate bastard son to King Richard III. The manor seen today was remodelled around 1730, a neo-Elizabethan style, for the 9th Earl of Winchester. Jane Austen visited Eastwell Manor several times, as her brother Edward was a close friend to George Finch Hatton, 11th Earl of Winchester, son of the 10th Earl, the man that duelled the Prime Minister and was the Lord of Eastwell Manor until 1865. In 1868, the Duke of Abercorn took over the property for 5 years, and then its next owner was Queen Victoria's son, Prince Alfred, the Duke of Edinburgh. He continued to live here with his family until 1893, with the Queen often visiting the manor. In 1928, Eastwell Manor was partly rebuilt after a fire, but by keeping its historical charm, it is now owned by the Champneys Luxury Hotel and Health Spa. As a pilgrim, it's obviously entirely up to yourself, but pilgrims in the past have gone barefoot for the last, I think it's about 700 or 800 metres, to the cathedral step from St Dunstan's Church, which is the last church before you get to Canterbury Cathedral. So I think I'm going to do that. It wasn't started as a pilgrimage, but it actually has finished that way. All the walks I've ever done, long distance walks and everything else, this one I've actually thought about some things and realised what I need to do for the future, and I look forward to getting to Canterbury in 2 or 3 hours. In front of me is Claudia. She's from Sicily in Italy. She's been an au pair in London for 6 months and goes back to Italy on Wednesday. I don't think she realised when she set off this morning how far Canterbury was. Her route is 11.5 miles, and obviously the terrain is a little bit more than she probably expected, as in jeans and trainers. As I've been informed, probably the best idea is to get to Chilham and then catch a train. Ow! Let's just say that this path is a little bit on the rough side. And having to duck down to about 2.5 feet above the ground. One of the things about following the Pilgrims Trail or Pilgrims Way rather than the North Downs Way, that it's a lot more overgrown. There has been times when I've had to turn back due to the trail is just too overgrown to get through. At the moment it's just opened back up, coming over towards the A28, which is the original route of the Pilgrims Way, which actually obviously becomes a road, a busy road, but also a road that I should be able to walk a little bit faster, a little bit quicker. Hello, how are you? There's a few of you. This is St Lawrence Martyr in Godmersham, believed to be a church where Jane Austen used to worship. This is the Church of St Lawrence the Martyr in Godmersham, where we can see a memorial to Edward Knight, brother of Jane Austen. Jane used to worship here with her sister and mother when visiting Godmersham. Godmersham Park House was built in 1732 for Thomas May, built on the grounds of an older Elizabethan house. In 1742, May changed his name to Knight. He enclosed a deer park around the estate. At the time, it was known as Ford Park. After his passing, it was inherited to his son, Thomas, and then to Edward Knight, brother of Jane Austen. Jane visited the house with her sister, Cassandra, often between 1798 and 1813. Her novels Pride and Prejudice and Mansfield Park are said to depict characters and scenes from the village. On the back of an English £10 note shows Jane Austen and Godmersham Hall.
I believe this is Chilham Castle, part of Chilham Park.
This Jacobean Chilham house stands by the ruins of the 1174 Henry II's Chilham Castle. Henry VIII once lived here, and a French king stayed here on his quest to take over the English throne. He failed. The house was built in 1616 by the architect Indigo Jones with Nicholas Stone, a master mason who also built Holyrood House in Edinburgh and Banqueting House in Whitehall, London, for Sir Dudley Digges, a British diplomat and politician. The gardens were later designed by Capability Brown. The last owner was John Wheeler, UKIP activist and a major donor to the Conservative Party. Sadly, he passed away in 2020, aged 85. The house has recently been sold for a cool £15 million.
Just walked through Mansfield. It's a produce place, a big distribution factory, and obviously here's the orchards where all the apples and different variety of apples are kept, which obviously they harvest and distribute around the country. Did see quite a few, tried to do it as like secretive as possible, filming of a lot of immigrants. They all seem to, I wouldn't guarantee, but I would say possibility from Romania. I wonder how much that is above board or illegal, and their accommodation and salaries. But that is one big orchard. It goes over the hill, and obviously as I walked up the hill there was another orchard as well. Well, the monks like to make a drink as well, so back in the day I'm sure the pilgrims, priests, monks all made a odd cider from all these apple trees. So many random things I've seen along this route. Blue doors in the middle of long walls. They don't seem to look like they go anywhere, and I'm not entirely sure what this is. Some sort of mailbox. It's got a nice bit of felt on the top, a new bit of felt. It's got some sort of use. Glorious views of the Kent countryside. So I've just coming towards the end of the orchard now, coming up through loads of polytunnels, and the smells changed as well. I don't know if it smells of, it's like chutney, Branston pickle chutney. Now I'm not sure that it's meant to smell like that. So inside these polytunnels we've got, I think, strawberries. Yep, strawberries are ripening all the way down there, hundreds of them. Well, they say these produce plants are chemical free. Well, that looks different to me. Oxidizing agent, dangerous chemicals. So that's all metal cabinet there. It's got chemicals inside. Then there was a pipe that goes into that big water drum, and then that water drum goes and does like a water filtration system, obviously feeding them chemicals of some form or fashion. So as I walk off the grounds of Mansfield's orchards, so yeah, still fields and fields of orchards. But yeah, also the thing was that never seen an orchard this big in my life, and then all of a sudden I got approached by some sort of people in a Mansfield's van saying, what are you doing? Seems to be a bit secretive. But on the other hand, North Downs Way, Pilgrims Way, goes through the centre of it, so I wasn't in the wrong place at the wrong time. They were seemed to be suspicious about things. Anyway, we're coming towards Chartham Hatch. Coming into Chartham Hatch, quaint little quiet village on a Sunday morning. Whoa, well, never expected to walk past this lot. Hello donkeys. Eat all, eat all. The donkey's here, and we've got a deer of some form. Actually, I mean, it looks like a reindeer. It's been an interesting walk. I've enjoyed it. I've walked in every terrain possible, I think. Thick brambles and bracken. My legs are cut to pieces now. Stopped the pain from my knee because obviously my legs are sore from the cuts of the bracken. But I've enjoyed it. It has become a pilgrimage, and I look forward to reaching the cathedral. I will soon be there. I've read in the Pilgrim's Guide that the pilgrims used to go to pubs just before going into dense woodlands for sort of like a drink of Dutch courage, mainly because when they walked into this dense woodland trails was the worry of being robbed or even murdered along the trail before they reached their final journey to the cathedral. So although it's a nice sunny day and I'm a big lad, so I feel safe enough. We've only got about 2.5 miles to go. Around these hills here is Bigbury Camp, which is an ancient camp, I believe Anglo-Saxon. As I've trodden all these miles from Winchester to, well, nearly Canterbury, only 2 miles away, I must admit this has been beautiful. It has been interesting. It's a good trail. It's a lot of it's overgrown, but a lot of interesting little villages I've gone through. Another trail completed, another one ticked off. As far as I'm aware, Canterbury Cathedral is only less than 2 miles away from my location. So that's just in the middle of the city. I can't see any city at the moment. The anticipation of seeing Canterbury Cathedral for the first time as I close in at the end of this trail is unbelievable. But yet I'm only 1.2 miles from the steps of the cathedral, and yet I still haven't seen anything of the cathedral, a city, or even many people, quite honest. I know it's Sunday, but it's unbelievable how quiet this place is. Oh, we start to see cars drive by. Maybe I'll get a glimpse of the cathedral yet.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I see the cathedral, the cathedral, the cathedral.
The last mile of the Pilgrims Way. But we're coming down towards St Dunstan's, which is, I believe, on my right in a moment, and about 200 metres. And that's the point where we take our shoes and socks off.
Dunstan was Archbishop of Canterbury from 960 to 978. Shortly after his death, he was made a saint. He was buried in Canterbury Cathedral, but his tomb was destroyed after the Reformation of the 1500s. The church is the last stop for pilgrims before entering the city. The church has associations with Sir Thomas More and Archbishop Thomas Becket at significant turning points in the relationship between church and state. Both were chancellors of England and friends with King Henry. For Becket, it was Henry II, and Thomas More was Henry VIII. In 1535, Sir Thomas More was beheaded on orders of Henry VIII for refusing to sign the Act of Supremacy. The Act was to recognise that King Henry VIII as the supreme head of the Church of England. Margaret Roper, daughter of Sir Thomas, recovered his head and had it buried with her in her vault below the church floor. Henry II came to Canterbury to give penance for his part in the murder of Archbishop Thomas Becket, entering the church to change into a woolen shirt before walking barefoot to the cathedral.
Well, this is it, the city gates. Now, do I do the thing? Take my shoes and socks off and walk through the gate. So, we're in Canterbury. We are by the edge of the city wall. We've got 400 metres to go. The point is, do I take my shoes and socks off and walk the last 400 metres? And I think we're going to have to go for it. Boots are off. I don't believe I'm doing this. God, bloody it. Well, I've done the pilgrim thing, barefoot to the steps of the cathedral, and here's the cathedral, so I'll keep plodding along. I should have tanned my feet before I went about this. I put some boot polish on it. So boots in hand, walking barefoot, just like the pilgrims. I'm inside Canterbury Cathedral. As you can hear further down, service is being conducted. I'm just waiting for somebody to come and collect me for my blessing. Now, I'm not sure how much it is to get into Canterbury Cathedral, but fortunately, because I'm a pilgrim, I got in free. We've been upgraded. I'm going to have a special blessing with a cannon.
I really like bringing pilgrims to the spot because we've this is where it actually, no, Randy was killed, so this is the spot where the big shrine. This for me isn't really because of him, it's because of windows that and in these windows you see stories of all the pilgrims who came to the spot asking God to do something for them, and then God did remarkable things for them in their lives. They healed them, sight, protected them on the ship, lots of different things, and then they came back here and gave thanks to God. And he did for them. So this spot is really special because all the people he's been here before and asked God to prayer and their lives. And you're amazed to stand here over all those many years.
How many people have been there before?
All those people who've been there spoken. Lord, you promised that when 2 or 3 are gathered together in your name, that you would know their prayers. We pray now and ask you to hear us as we give thanks for the miracle that Andy has performed in his pilgrimage to this place. We thank you for the days when the sun has shone and the wind has haunted. We give you thanks for the sharing and the soft and gentle. We give you thanks for the friends and the strangers that you have met along the way. Blessing upon one, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Well, that was the Pilgrims Way. I hopefully you enjoyed it. I'm still thinking that I'm not sure if I should have walked through the city streets without my shoes and socks on, but I did the pilgrim thing and, well, mission accomplished, so to speak. So it was 174 miles, I think, in total over 9 days. I enjoyed every moment of it. Plenty of history. In fact, probably most history was today and places to see, and then finished off with our blessing. That is the end of the Pilgrims Way, the series. In the meantime, we've got Christmas coming up. Now, I do have a plan to do a live stream on top of a mountain in North Yorkshire. Hopefully, that'll be on Christmas Day on the Pennine Way. Do a bit of a live stream from there on Christmas Day. So please keep tuned for that. If I can't, because the internet signals and everything else, then there'll be a video coming out very soon around Christmas time. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And as I say, add a like and feel free to make a comment. I've enjoyed this walk. Hopefully you have. Hopefully you'll like to join me on another walk. So until then, take care, look after yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye, hikers.